Every week that passes us in fantasy football is 1 week closer to the playoffs, which is also one less week of adding quality players on the waiver wire. Now is going to get even more and more important to make sure we hit on waiver wire adds and positions that we either need or don't already have on our rosters. In this video, we're going to cover waiver wire adds that you should be adding this week going into week 10. Also, some injury insights. I know that there wasn't that many quality waiver add players to be had this week, unlike in weeks past. But nonetheless, there are some key injury details and notes to talk about. So let's just go right ahead and roll the intro. Unfortunately, no new running backs to add this week. This was a week that if you had Kyle Monangai, who subbed in for the DeAndre Swift, maybe that would be an ad. I feel like Kyle Monangai is somebody we've spoken about on the channel briefly, so I'm not going to go ahead and say that Kyle Monangai is this week's waiver wire ad at running back. We don't really have anybody, but one thing to mention, Devin SIngletary actually looked, I don't know, more of like the part of a running back than Tyrone Tracy did in that 49ers game. I would say if there's anybody to add, and especially if you play in a deeper league, Devin Singletary could be the running back that we could add, but other than that, there's really slim pickings at this position this week. Let's move on. Tory Horton obviously was a great beneficiary and proponent of Sam Darnold's 14 for 14 first half start on Sunday Night Football. He got 2 touchdowns in that first half. Didn't really see much action after that. As long as Cooper Kupp is still the same player we've always known him to be as an LA Ram, which is extremely talented, but always struggles to be available for you, has some kind of injury bug that he can, for some reason, not break or get over the hump of in any year except the year he won the Triple Crown. So as long as Cooper Kupp is somebody that we can rely on to be out of the Seahawks lineup, not only is Tory Horton a great add in fantasy, but definitely provides us with some flex opportunities. This is still a player very young into his career, has 5 receiving touchdowns already in the NFL. That's very impressive. We just got halfway through the year, and he's got 5 receiving touchdowns. Impressive. Are these 5 touchdowns sustainable, and can he pace for 10 total touchdowns this year? Probably not. But you know what? We know that Tory Horton has a nose for the end zone. So definitely make sure you go out and pick up Tory Horton, not Tory Holton, because that's not a real person, Turtle. Let's keep it right here at the wide receiver position. I want to talk about Parker Washington of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the more we dive in and kind of unravel what this Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver situation is, the better and better it sounds for Parker Washington. I thought I was going to come on Monday afternoon, make a video about how we should be adding Dyami Brown. Dyami Brown was somebody I added immediately once I saw Travis Hunter was on IR. I know this is a player who's been around the league, somebody that when asked upon last year to step right into the Washington Commanders offense with Jaden Daniels, clearly was effective in that short amount of time that he was there. His stats in just 3 games last year are kind of on par with what he's done in the totality of the 25 season so far. But with Dyami Brown getting 7 targets to Parker Washington's 9, and Dyami Brown and Brian Thomas Jr. leaving this game due to injury, Parker Washington gets better by the day, and you should definitely be adding him if you need a wide receiver in fantasy. Next, we have Colston Loveland, Bears tight end. I understand he had 1 nuclear game this weekend, probably won't be repeatable, but this was somebody I wanted to talk about last week, and it's easy for me to say that in hindsight, but going into last week's game, this was someone that's seen 4 more receptions in each of the last 2 games and was actually getting more playing time in terms of snap percentage. So we're clearly seeing an offense that trusts Colston Loveland coming out of the bye week, wanted to give him more opportunities, and the Cincinnati Bengals game absolutely showed us all of the opportunities that Colston Loveland has at the next level in the NFL. You're not going to get a monster game from Colston Loveland every week, but if he's going to be out there, if he's going to get the opportunities, I think Colston Loveland is someone we should at least be adding in fantasy if you're not going to throw him into your lineups right away. And lastly, we spoke about him just briefly in the beginning, but Sam Darnold, guys. Can we add him, please? I don't understand why this player isn't rostered. I understand he has that ability to kind of go pumpkin mode any game and not be the heroic fantasy player for you, but he's going to deliver more times than he's not. A lot more times than he's not, and he's shown you that this season alone. And who knows, maybe you have an injury. Maybe we need to go around and talk about some of the injuries that happened over this past weekend. Jaden Daniels probably not going to come back this season. Obviously, there's no word yet on what the situation is. Maybe by the time I post this, we'll know for sure if he's out for the year. I would kind of treat him like he's out for the year. I would be debating on whether I want to use an IR spot on him because maybe he gets the benefit of the doubt and can return. But anybody going forward that's going to suffer a injury like this, or let's even talk about Tucker Kraft of the Green Bay Packers. We don't know for sure if he's torn his ACL. That is the speculation right now that it's not very good for Tucker Kraft. Kraft is probably somebody we're not going to see the rest of this year, and we're probably not even going to draft him next year, just given the severity and the time of this injury. You have to consider you're going under the table for surgery in November. If it's a 12-month turnaround, you're not going to be ready till November of next year. So we're going to be drafting somebody that isn't going to play the first 9-10 weeks of the year. I don't know about that. CJ Stroud is also a quarterback that unfortunately suffered an injury, had to exit this weekend's game, suffered a concussion, did not come back in the game, and Davis Mills played in his place. And I'm not saying that CJ Stroud is a bad quarterback or Davis Mills should be the franchise guy, but once Davis Mills kind of stepped right in, I know we had a larger, much bigger sample size since CJ Stroud only played about a quarter, maybe a little more. Davis Mills was peppering Nico Collins with targets, and it finally felt reassuring to be a Nico Collins fantasy owner again. If Davis Mills, for some reason, is going to start Week 10 for the Houston Texans, I'm going to upgrade Nico Collins, honestly. I think that we haven't seen that elite Nico Collins production. If Davis Mills goes back under center, there's a very good chance that he's just going to be hyper-targeting Nico Collins. Once Davis Mills entered the game, we saw a lot less of the Dalton Schultz and the other receivers get their opportunities, and it just became about Nico. I spoke a little bit about Brian Thomas Jr. when we mentioned Parker Washington, but Brian Thomas Jr. left this game with an ankle injury, even though he was already dealing with some kind of shoulder injury going into this game and throughout this season. I don't know if Brian Thomas Jr. is definitely going to play, but regardless, Parker Washington, if definitely no De'Ami Brown at least, if one of these two or both wide receivers are gone, we have to upgrade Parker Washington immensely. And lastly, probably the least concerning injury of them all, Puka Nacua left this Saints game with a chest injury. They could have easily brought him back in. That was what the reports were telling us. But because you're playing the New Orleans Saints and you don't need to play Puka Nacua if he's not 110%, you might as well just give him a break and we'll see Puka back in Week 10. That's going to wrap it up for players we should be adding on the waiver wire this week in Week 10 and some notable injuries to cover and dissect around the league. These may impact our lineup setting for Week 10, so that's why I just wanted to make sure we brushed over it really briefly. If you're new here, you like fantasy football content, make sure you smash that like button for me. Helps the channel out tremendously, get my videos out to more and more fantasy football enthusiasts like yourself. And if you like fantasy football content, you want to know who to start every week, you want to know who are the hot waiver wire guys before you even get on your app and look, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Join Outlier Militia today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, I love each and every one of you so much. My name is Turtle. This is Outlier Fantasy, and I will see you in the next video. Wow, you stuck to the end of this video? Thank you so much. If you're new here, make sure you check out one of these videos on the screen right now. And don't forget, before you leave, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any fantasy football videos on this channel. And that's all I got for you guys. I'll see you in the next one.